In this video, I'm going to show you how to draw a very simple one-point perspective house. It's going to look like this in the end, okay? So you need a blank piece of drawing paper, a ruler. I like the ones that are clear. You can tell that all my numbers have worn off and that's not going to impact things. And then also a pencil with an eraser. So to begin, we're going to need some sort of horizon line. I do not use my ruler for this. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. Now somewhere near the right side of my paper, I'm going to put a vanishing point. This is where everything is going to be aligned to. So that's where everything vanishes. Connecting to my vanishing point, I'm going to put two lines, and that is going to become my road. Now, right now, it doesn't really look like a road. It just looks like a triangle, almost like a scale, an unbalanced scale, if this was a line or an edge. So to make it look like a road, I want to put my middle line. Now, I like to find, where that about the halfway point is. Well, so I guess in some ways, you do need a ruler that has marks, but you can always just eyeball it. So this is approximately my middle. I'm going to draw a line that is on one side of that and then on the other side of that as well. These lines are going to be fairly close together and they're going to represent the dashed line that is in between a road. Now to cut off or to make my dash lines, I need to do straight horizontals. One way I like to make sure that I do straight horizontal lines on my paper and not crooked is to align my flat end of my ruler to the side of my paper. Now one thing to remember as you're making these lines, that the closer it gets to my vanishing point, the closer together those lines should be. So as it recedes to the vanishing point, these things get closer together to give that illusion that there is distance. So with every little line I draw, it's like a little bit closer together every single time. Now it may help you. Sometimes drawing it horizontally like this is a little bit tricky. It may help you to turn your paper sideways for just the moment to draw those lines. Now eventually it gets to the point where it's just like little dashes. All right, so to make this look more like a road, I can erase every other section and it looks like the dashed lines. It gets a little tricky to erase every other section back there, and so I really don't worry about it. All right, so now our road actually looks like a road. Let's talk about our house. Now this is going to be a fairly simple, cheesy house, and it is going to exist here. Now you want to be sure not to put your house right on the edge of the road, so if you would step out your house, you would get run over. Okay, so we have a nice spot here that we can put our house in. I'm going to start by drawing a square out here. Now it's important to make sure lines that are vertical are always straight vertical on your page. If you have them just a little bit crooked, it's going to make it look like your house is falling down. So again, use the edge of your paper to make sure that your sides are straight. This does not have to be a square, it can also be a rectangle. So I'm really not measuring, I'm just drawing something that has 4 sides and 90-degree angles. All right, so my next step is to draw the roof. Again, this is going to be a cheesy house, but I still want it technical. So I'm going to find about my middle point, and I'm not going to measure, I'm just going to eyeball it. And so this is approximately my middle point. And so straight up from that, I'm going to draw another point, and that's going to be the peak. Now, on this far side, this one's the furthest away from my vanishing point, I want to actually have an eave that kind of comes over. So I'm going to draw my line not actually touching that corner. Okay, so it's actually just hovering right above that corner. Okay, now the corner that's closest to my vanishing point, I'm going to do just the opposite. I'm going to have this one overlapping my corner. Now another thing is I want to make sure that they are at the same point. So this one stops here. I probably need to extend that one just a little bit. All right, now this will no longer be seen. It's going to be covered up by our overlapping eave. All right, so what we do know about perspective from our previous activity is that corners need to be attached to our vanishing point as long as it doesn't go through. I'm going to start on my easy side. I consider the side that's closest to the vanishing point the easy side, the furthest one the hard side. All right, now I'm going to draw these fairly light because I'm going to need to erase later. If I draw them really dark, I'm making my job a little bit harder, and I don't want to make things harder for myself. So the last one is this point over here. Now I'm only going to draw it for a little bit. I'm going to draw it just the little bit until it hits the house, and then I'm going to stop drawing it. This one right here, if I drew it, it would go right through the house, and so I wouldn't see it. So I'm not going to draw that one. All right, so my next step is doing a little bit of parallel lines for cutting off. So I'm going to align my ruler to the side of the house or the roof of the house here. I'm going to slide and cut. Now give yourself enough distance because we're going to add a door and a window. So if you cut it off super close, it's going to be very difficult to get that door and window in. Now I'm going to align my ruler this time to the side of my house. I'm going to slide and cut. Now I'm leaving a little bit of distance between the side and my corner because it has a little bit of eave that's poking out a little bit beyond. All right, so this side looks pretty good. We still have a little bit of problems over here. This isn't connected to the roof. So I'm going to use a parallel line. And I'm just going to draw a slight line there. Now it looks like that eave is connected. All right, so let's talk about windows and doors. Okay, now this side is going to be my easy side. This side is going to be my difficult side. Let's start with our easy side. Everything on this side is standard. So if I wanted to draw a door, I'm going to simply draw a rectangle for a door. But I do want to make sure that all my lines are straight horizontal, straight vertical. So I'm going to just quickly draw in some windows. And nothing is tricky on this. It's the other side where it gets a little bit tricky. All right, so standard rectangles for windows. I could do a fancy door window up here if I wanted. Okay, nothing too exciting here. Now on this side, it gets a little bit more complicated. One rule is that lines that are straight up and down will always be straight up and down. They're not perpendicular, they're just straight up and down. So if I wanted to do a door over here, my line would need to stay straight up and down. Again, don't forget about the rule of placing your ruler on the edge and making sure that it's straight. It also should match up to this. So I'm going to do 2 lines for the sides of the door. So that's the same. This is straight up and down, this is straight up and down. These also are straight up and down. It's the top and the bottom that are different. The bottom is already connected to the vanishing point. I just need to do the top. I'm using my vanishing point to get that top. So there I have a door. Let's talk about windows. Same rules. Okay, so the sides of my windows are straight up and down here. Same on this side. So they're still straight up and down. I'm just going to do one big window over here. It's the top and the bottom that are different. Those have to go to our vanishing point. Now say you wanted to do the little crisscrossy thing that often happens in windows. So if I did crisscrossy things here, lines are straight up and down and straight horizontal. All right, so if I did a crisscrossy thing over here, straight up and down to the vanishing point. So the horizontals on this side are always going to my vanishing point, but lines that are straight up and down always stay straight up and down. All right, let's quickly talk about sidewalks. So if we wanted a sidewalk, perhaps we have a sidewalk on the side of our road, but we also want to have some sidewalks connecting to our road. This side is going to be the easy side, so I'm going to start with that. I'm going to just use straight horizontal lines to connect my house to the road using a sidewalk, okay? It's a pretty fat sidewalk, but that's okay. Over here, it's a little bit different. I'm going to use my vanishing point first. So I'm going to connect to my vanishing point. There's my ruler. I'm going to draw these lines coming straight out using my vanishing point, straight out. Then I'm going to do just like I did here, and I'm going to use straight horizontal lines to bring it to my sidewalk over here. Now if I wanted to do dividing lines, I'm going to start with the dividing lines going over here. I'm going to use my vanishing point. So my ruler is connected to my vanishing point, and I'm going to use that to make my divisions, okay? Now over here, if I wanted to do dividing lines, it's the same as how I did these. I'm going to use horizontal lines. And again, as it goes back, it should get closer and closer together. I feel like that's a driveway. It's so fat, it looks more like a driveway, and it would keep going back. All right, so that's how you draw a very simple house in 1-point perspective.